Tanse, Jen Laderoute, Nitsihkason, Kogit Lake, Alberta, Hochenia. Ja hatu tamanuhe, kagih piawasiwian, atamona. Msta hikkuinigisksin, 1950s ja 1960s, kagih hawasiwian. Kohmattun piittos kagisip maatsehkikspi. Nigisksin tanssia ja gisnaakoh gift leik aunuuteh gihuiget. Mina tanssi gisip maatsi toisinuak, tanssi gise nisuhkamaatu toomina. Nigisksin tanssi gisip maatsi hohk. Naatuhkoi omguneh kaui haato tamaan tanssi miini gisimi taujaak. Tanssia ja igi muutsi gihtaa, goh mina ja musta tantsau igi suhkatuski toomina isinuak. Maatsi isu toomattuni kahkiaujak kihmiuitsi toomina. Iguspium kaato tamaan Gift Lake. Muhtse kuantitiisaka kagihuigiak. Viittigui kuantiitih saastau. Mui uhtsemi oasano miskanawa. Mui min mihtiitu uhtsajauiwak utapanaskua. Kahkiaujak kihtsemaksu. Mihtiita wasa kiahjauiwak isinuak. Niinaan ntaata ngihtassinaan hawassak. Ikohaja makuintuhaja naanuhe anuts kahkiakoi kauitsassik. Waskutiptsigana siisikkoi. Gimustikuapikanaan. Gimustipuninaan. Mujumaiguhkahis uhtsaja siwiptamuaujak. Tagihugaat. Makuintuhapa ajanaan tawapahtamak. Mahtaan sehtahkamgak uutihnim tau ahpu Muskataskam. Mangihmami ajanaan. Ikunihum kahatsamujan. Nipaksimon tamiwihtamikuhi atamona. Hi, my name is Jen Laderoute, and I'm from Gift Lake, Alberta. I'm telling stories on YouTube about my childhood stories from a time when life was very different, a life that no longer exists. I think it's important to tell these stories because they reflect a difference in values, in how people lived, our approach to life, and especially where I grew up was a poor, tiny, isolated community in the north with little access to the outside world. We didn't have good roads in and out. There were some vehicles, but very few. We didn't have modern amenities or communication systems. We had no phones, no TV to know what was going on outside of our community. We had radios, battery-operated radios. And so exposure to the outside world was very limited. But people in my community worked hard. They got along, helped each other out. And I have excellent, good childhood memories of my community. So it is my hope that you enjoy these stories. The story I'm telling today is about our treats. We were poor, no access to stores. What did we have for treats? Because kids need treats, right? But they were a scarce commodity in our community. There was a store, uh, there was a Hudson Bay store in the Whitefish Lake Reserve, which was the next community over from Gift Lake. And we would go once in a while as a family, and they had, some chocolates and candy. And I remember they had pop. Oh, that was a treat. Like the pop came in the tall glass bottles. It was 10 cents a bottle. But we still had to share, like 2 kids to a bottle. We were happy with that. Um, we didn't have a store in Gift Lake until 1957. And so we did have access to chocolate bars, gum, uh, candy, like 5 pieces of candy to a penny. But they didn't carry pop that I recall, or chips. They didn't have chips. I didn't see potato chips until I was a teenager. So, yeah, we didn't have munchies like today. We didn't have um, potato chips, cheesies, tacos, and all these wide variety of munchies that kids just have access to any time. And even though we could buy the chocolate bars and candy in the community, that didn't mean we got them all the time. No, it was still a treat when were able to get some. And they were certainly appreciated. We did make some of our own treats, and some of our treats came from the wild, and some were really, really wild treats, but I'll talk about that later. Um, in the summer, we had a steady supply of snacks from our garden, vegetables, carrots, peas, turnips. We ate them right out of the garden. We actually ate healthy as kids. We didn't eat all the time. We didn't have snacks in between um, meals, and if we did, they were from the garden in the summer. Or berries. We had access to all kinds of berries anytime, close by the communities. I remember when we moved from one house to another, the first house we had from Gift Lake, and we moved out to our homestead. There was strawberries growing right in our front yard. My sister and I would run out, an hour before supper, maybe less, and we'd pick enough strawberries to have for supper at supper time. And we would have them with some sugar and milk. There was all kinds of other berries like gooseberries, saskatoons when it was their season, raspberries. So, yeah, we had fruit and vegetables, and they were free. And as kids, we didn't sit around watching TV or doing any of the those kinds of things. We were very active. We played morning till night, so we were active. We had a healthy diet. Our meat came from the wild. It was not processed, so we were healthy as a result of that. I remember on allowance days, family allowance days, they used to be called, the child tax credit days today. Um, Mom didn't get much, but we would go to the Hudson Bay um, in Whitefish, and she would buy a big bag of candy. Like not huge, but a bigger bag of candy. And what I remember most is the jelly beans. So she would give us each 5 or 6 jelly beans, each kid. We were happy with that. That was our treat for that trip. Um, Another thing she would buy was Kool-Aid. So we would have Kool-Aid, 2 or 3 times after, like at home. And they didn't have much of a selection for cookies and stuff like that. The cookies I do remember Mom used to buy were Sultana cookies. Sultana. They were like a cracker type of cookie with a date filling. And I loved them. I mean, that was the only cookies we usually got. And then, I didn't see them for the longest time when I became an adult. Then No Frills brought them back in Walmart for a while. Now they're gone again, and I always look for them. Um, I'll really stock up if I ever find them. Um, Mom would usually buy some dried fruit, like dried apples, raisins, prunes, apricots. And once in a while, she would give us just, maybe a couple little apple slices or a couple of apricot. And that satisfied our need for a sweet treat for a while. Um, but we made potato chips at home. We cooked them on top of a cast iron cook stove because that's what we had. And this activity was usually started by Dad. He would get the stove nice and hot. He'd be building a fire. We wouldn't really notice right away. And then he would sprinkle salt on top of the hot surface. And when we saw him doing that, we knew what he was up to. We're making potato chips. So we'd all gather around him. He'd start peeling the potatoes and slicing them really thin. We're gathered around him. Then he'd talk to us about the potatoes as he peeled. My dad was a huge gardener. If we wanted to have potato chips, we listened to him tell us how to plant a good potato. So Dad ended up peeling and slicing like a whole lot of potatoes before we got our fill because there would be, well, 10 of us kids, but when he was doing this at the time, there was probably 8 because the 2 were older. So we'd place the potatoes on top of the hot cast iron surface, and we would turn them over so that they would brown evenly on both sides. They were really good, and it never failed. But someone always snuck some pepper to sprinkle on top of the stove, and we would all end up sneezing and trying to figure out, well, who did that? I'm having some legume tea. So good. Ice cream, especially ice cream on a cone, was the ultimate treat. Ernie Anderson was he was a real entrepreneur in our community, and once he had an ice house. Okay, so once in a while he would sell ice cream from his ice house, and it wasn't very often. Word just would get out, and people would be there. We'd run over and buy ice cream. Mom had to scrape around for whatever, maybe it was 5 cents a cone or something. But we made ice cream in the winter, and for ingredients, we used milk, sugar, vanilla, and snow. And it worked. It tasted pretty close to the real thing. The other times we might get ice cream was for the annual end of the year school picnic, or if there was a sports day, someone would bring ice cream. Mom would sometimes these are desserts. Like mom didn't have time or necessarily the ingredients to bake cakes and cookies. So, but she would make rice pudding or bread pudding, and that was they were part of our treats. And a jello in the wintertime only because we didn't have a fridge, so we could only make jello in the wintertime, which reminds me of a jello story or a jello birthday party. My little brother Donald seems to make it on quite a few of my videos. But anyway, his birthday is in January, and he really, really wanted a birthday party. I don't know where he got that idea of a birthday party because really we didn't have birthday parties. I I don't remember a birthday party when I was a child, or even gifts for that matter. We didn't have gifts. Um, we didn't know we were supposed to get gifts on our birthday. We got spanked. The number of years you're like if you're 10, you got 10 spanks on the bum from mom or dad. I don't know where that idea came from, but that was all we had to look forward to. Spanked with love. Anyway, he bugged mom. Mom is like, no, I don't have the stuff to make a cake. I can't make a cake for you. I can't, no, 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 no. But he was very persistent. Donald was anything but persistent. And he went to the cupboard and he found Jello. So he's like, well, we'll make Jello. We'll have Jello for my birthday. So, yeah, mom gave in and made Jello. So that was what we had for his party. But we had fun. We were celebrating, a sibling's birthday with Jello. um, we made candy, or my older sister learned to make a couple of different candy types from Kokom or Auntie next door. A caramel type of candy was made by cooking sugar until it browns. Oh, and she'd have to beg for the sugar. Um, she'd have to beg mom, can I have a cup of sugar to make candy? And, sometimes it was easier to get that sugar than other times. But you cook the sugar on a frying pan, or in a frying pan, sorry. And then you take off the heat, and then it starts to harden. So once it hardens, you chop it into bite-sized pieces, and we had our candy. For softer candy, syrup was the main ingredient. You'd boil the syrup and add a little bit of flour to thicken. Again, take off the heat, make into balls, and we called it toffee. And vanilla was another ingredient. If mom had it, we would add that. But we even had breadsticks with dipping sauce. When mom cooked bacon, which wasn't very often because bacon was expensive, but when she did, we would take the bacon grease, mix it with Rogers golden syrup, then dip bannock in the mixture. The bacon grease and syrup for a not so cholesterol free snack. Now for the wild treats. This is one I didn't like. spruce gum, a hard substance found on the spruce trees. I didn't like it. It tasted too much like spruce because it came from spruce. I don't know. It was very sticky, so I didn't like that. But some people chewed it for used it for gum. Imistasok was an activity in the spring when there was sap in the poplar trees, and we would chip the bark off, and there'd be the liquid in between the bark and the tree, and then that was eaten in the spring. I didn't care for that either. The next two treats are kind of gross. I'll prepare you with that little comment. Every spring when Dad came home from trapping, he brought the muskrat tails. The muskrats he killed, he would cut off the tails and bring them to us, for us. So we would be like, split the tails evenly amongst everybody to make sure nobody got more. Then we washed them, thoroughly, of course. These are muskrat tails, not just any regular rat tail, okay? Gotta make that clear. Then we roasted them over an open fire. It was an activity also, but it was also, they were good. We peeled off the outer skin and ate the meat of the tail. We called it meat, but I think maybe it was just fat. Now, the next one is pretty gross. I don't think I can eat duck guts today. Duck guts. You heard right. First, you squeeze all the, crap out of it and wash thoroughly, of course. And then again, we would roast those over an open fire and enjoy. They were good. Another treat from the wild was bone marrow from moose bones. After Mom had cleaned off all the meat that she could from the different bones, we'd throw them in the oven. And then we would clean off whatever little meat was left on the bone, and then chop the bones with an axe. My bigger brother used to be the one to do that. He'd go out and chop the bones so we could get at the bone marrow. And then my mom would make from some particular fat in the moose. I forget the Cree name for them, but some people call them popcorn because they, when she put them in the oven and they kind of roasted a bit, they look like popcorn. These pieces of fat. I wish I could remember the name. I don't remember the Cree name. So that was another thing we ate. Now, you may think that our treats were gross. Looking back, I think they were gross, but they were good. They were actually good, and especially when you don't have a choice. But I don't really know if I can bring myself to eat duck guts ever again. But yes, so that was what we had. You make do with what you have when you don't have the money. And I just remember my childhood was, we never went hungry. Not a day went by that we went hungry. We had food from the wild, food from the garden, food from, limited food, but we had access to a store. And then when the store was built right in Gift Lake, it was super good. Um, didn't have a whole lot of meat sold at the store, mostly things like bologna, that kind of stuff, neck bones. um, Mom didn't really make dry meat or smoked fish when we were smaller. She only started doing that when I got older, because she just probably didn't have time. Those are very time consuming activities. And so my early childhood, I didn't really have that dry meat and smoked fish. But later on, she did as we got older. And my sisters learned to do those traditional activities also. I never did. So, anyway, this may be my last story. Um, I've run out of topics. So, I hope you have enjoyed these stories. This is the 10th story. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed sharing these stories, and hopefully, you can sort of picture and imagine the life that I'm talking about. It was good. My childhood memories are very good. Iksemaga.